Mayor de Blasio is now sounding the alarm because children are falling ill from the coronavirus. In fact, the news channels are blasting out these stories of 93 children have developed a severe and mysterious inflammatory condition from the coronavirus. And everywhere you look, you're like, oh my God, children are falling ill. Children are becoming affected. What is the context with which all of this information should be looked at? Because that's what they don't give you. De Blasio doesn't give you context. The news outlets don't give you context, do they? Do you know that of the children that developed this inflammatory condition, only half, so less than 50, actually were found to have coronavirus at the time of their presentation? Only half. And of the other half, a majority, 80%, actually were found to have antibodies against coronavirus. Now, they've clumped these two together, except when you think about it, coronavirus may have showed up in New York as early as February, maybe even January. We don't know. Because they only knew to look for it in late February, March, and they found their first case in March 1st. But coronavirus was spreading in China in early December. And we know that with world travel and population density, chances are it showed up in New York State and New York City well before they were aware of it. Now think about this. There are 1.7 million children in New York City, over 4 million children in New York State. With a population density where people are going in and out of high-rises for office work, for meetings, for living, subways, trains, taxis, how many million children could have possibly been exposed in this entire interim leading to now? December, we're now in May. 5 months. How many children could have been exposed even with the lockdown that's in place? Could it be 1 million children have been exposed? We don't know. We don't know. And you know the scary part? Even more scary than what they're reporting to you is what they're not reporting to you. De Blasio doesn't come out and say, you know what, we actually don't know how many people have been exposed. We have run numbers and we think that maybe 1 million, maybe 2 million children, forget about the total 20 million population, 1 or 2 million children may have been exposed. He doesn't say that, does he? If he were to say that, if he were to say, you know what, we have found 93 cases of this, we know that 50% of these kids had this virus, the other half may have been exposed at some point, and we don't even know if that's correlated. But of these 93, we have 1 million children who have been exposed, and the vast majority have done fine. He doesn't say that, does he? I wonder why. I wonder why. I wonder why the media doesn't tell you that. Maybe it's because they want to sell you information, because that's how they make their money. You see, the other part of this information, this discussion that's really interesting, is that part of the presentation of these children is that they develop Kawasaki's or atypical Kawasaki's, where the blood vessels of their heart get inflamed, their heart muscle, especially the valves, can get inflamed, and it's awful. It's awful. I actually had a patient of mine last year that developed this, and I saw many of them during my residency. It's not something to be taken lightly. The thing that's interesting about Kawasaki's is before the coronavirus, all the data that you look at, somewhere between 8 to 12 children per day were getting Kawasaki's and developing Kawasaki's, and the vast majority of the time we actually don't know why they were developing it. You go through the scientific literature, you read every article that you can find, they keep saying, we don't know, we don't know. It may be tied to influenza, it may be tied to Coxsackie. But they don't know. So what if 8 to 12 children per day were going to develop Kawasaki's anyways, this awful inflammatory condition, and coronavirus just happened to be a reason why it showed up? And if these children didn't develop it, maybe tomorrow if they got influenza, they would have gone on to develop it anyways. We don't know. De Blasio doesn't give you that context, does he? It almost seems like he wants you to live in a state of fear. He wants to have you be terrified. And the big question is why? Why does he want to do that? Because you see, living life comes with risk. Every day, children fall harm from something. Every year in this country, 12,000 children die from unintentional accidents. Every year, 1,100 children die from near drowning or drowning episodes. We don't talk about that. That's not sexy. That's not news. That's normal. But we don't put our kids in bubble wrap. We don't keep them indoors because they may die. We don't keep them from swimming because they may drown. 600 children per year die from the flu. That wasn't causing us to shelter in place before. Only 3 children have died so far, and it's awful. If my child died, I would lose my mind. As a pediatrician, any child that ever falls ill, it breaks my heart, and I want to do everything in my power to help them. So I'm not belittling these numbers. But look at the bigger picture. Look at the context, because they're not giving you the context. And the other part of this is the cost. The cost to you, and most importantly, the cost to your child. And that is the part that I'm most worried about. You see, when de Blasio and the media irresponsibly pump out this information, what they don't take into account is the psychological toll on you and the psychological toll on your child. If you live in a state of fear, if you're paranoid about what's going to happen to them, oh my God, what if their heart fails? Oh my God, what if their kidneys fail? Oh my God, what if they develop this condition? Even if you don't speak a word, your child is sensing that fear. Children are extremely smart. They're extremely aware. And even if they're, acting silly and totally aloof, they're watching every single movement. And you're imprinting your fear onto them. When they come to go run outside, you're like, don't. If you take them to the park and they go running to a dog and you're like, stop. What does that do to them? What are you telling them about the world? What are you telling them about how safe they are in the world? And most importantly, when we come out of this, what are we doing to all of these children that we have imprinted fear? Be afraid. Be scared of the world. The world is dangerous. The world is going to harm you. What is that going to do? Are we going to have a society of children, a society of people that are too scared to be in the world? De Blasio doesn't think about that. The media doesn't think about that. In fact, for them, that's not even a concern because they want you to be scared. That's irresponsible on their part. I am concerned about the children and the fear and harm that we're causing to them. And we need to push back on these fear tactics because you know what? If these children grow up to be fearful adults that can't trust the world, have we done them any good? If 93 children out of 1 million or 2 million have been harmed, but we harm all of society because of the fear that we irresponsibly are imposing onto you and them, have we done any good? Ask yourself that. And next time you see these articles, put them into context. And if the context tells you I shouldn't be afraid, shut down these news channels. You know how they're going to change your messaging? If their readership drops to 0. If these news outlets that keep pumping out fear all of a sudden see their readerships disappear, they're going to stop. It's irresponsible what they're doing. It's irresponsible what they're doing to you and your child. And we need to take action. Be aware, be responsible, be concerned. I'm not saying be ignorant. Don't be afraid. And please, please, God, don't let that fear transpose onto your child. These children deserve to live beautiful and rich lives, and we need to be conscious of what we're putting into their minds, intentionally or unintentionally. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this message if you feel it's valuable. This is Dr. K.